Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. Does Rui Hachimura have a future in Los Angeles? Can JJ Redick get his big three producing big numbers? That is next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one's always free. It's never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 36,000 subscribers to the program, Andy, all of whom are wondering whether or not the big three is going to produce at the level that will be necessary to give, really support the defense. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Rui Hachimura in the future, in his potential future in the NBA, with the Lakers, and so on, and all of that, Andy, as soon as we tell people that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning for your future bets now. So ESPN is an interesting thing that they put out where each team has a number that is kind of a key hidden statistic or whatever it might be. And for the Lakers, it was one that was centered around the pick and roll. Specifically the pick and roll with Luka Dončić and LeBron James, and the 4.4 pick and rolls per 100 possessions of the two of them, Andy, worked together, which is far lower than I think a lot of people expected when LeBron arrived. It's a number that bumped up in the playoffs, but overall is one that you would expect to be significantly higher over the course of the year. And it's one of those things that, if not this exact statistic, like how many pick and rolls are the two of them, it's an example of how the Lakers need to make sure that they are truly calibrating this offense to get the most out of this highly unusual, highly talented pairing of LeBron and Luka, and then adding, of course, Austin Reaves to that with a skill set that ought to complement both.
Yeah, I'm going to read some of this verbatim because there's a lot of verbiage, but I think it's worth it to really illustrate what they're talking about, what the Lakers are ultimately contending with. Quote, with Luka Dončić and LeBron James on the roster, the Lakers have access to a theoretically unguardable play, pick and rolls between James and a talented guard that don't have forced mismatches and worked wonders. Yet the Lakers didn't run many pick and rolls between their two lead creators after the past season's blockbuster trade. In the regular season, LeBron set 3.8 picks per 100 possessions for Dončić per Genius IQ, while Dončić set 0.6 for James, a total of 4.4 picks per 100 possessions. For comparison, James and Kyrie Irving set 15.1 picks per 100 possessions for each other across their last two seasons together in Cleveland. James and Austin Reaves have set 11.3 per 100 across their shared Lakers tenure. To be fair, the Lakers were adjusting to a novel situation on the fly this past season, and the Stars duo's pick rate rose dramatically in the playoffs from 4.4 to 9.2 per 100 possessions, although that was almost all James setting for Dončić rather than the other way around. It unsurprisingly produced plenty of points, as the Lakers averaged better than 1.2 points per play when a Dončić-James pick led directly to a shot, foul, or turnover, but they should utilize it a lot more in 25-26 to get the most out of this unique partnership. And what I find really interesting about this is we've talked a lot, and we have talked about it. Other people covering this team has talked about it. I think it has even been discussed by the team to some degree. The idea of a synergy between Luka, LeBron, and Austin, which seems like the most optimized version of the Lakers, and it can be a goal, but you have to get the two-man game down before you get the third dude involved. And what I think is really interesting about it is, by any logical measure, that starts with Luka and LeBron, because they're the two best players on the Lakers. They're the two best playmakers, two most dangerous guys that are going to draw the most attention. So you would look to synergize that duo, and obviously that's a big part of maximizing the Lakers' offense, get it humming better than it often was last season. But this is also a season that's going to be spent, I think, really evaluating and deciding how well Luka and Austin work together, and whether that is a foundation worth investing in literally and figuratively. We've talked before about Austin is expected to make 30 plus million annually in his next deal. And, there'll be opportunities when LeBron sits to work those two, but LeBron isn't going to be off the court all the time. And then in the meantime, LeBron and Austin already have a really good synergy that can be maximized. But when you think about the team big picture, they're the two least important in terms of potential pairings. So it's nothing that I think is insurmountable for the Lakers. I just think, if nothing else, it speaks to the importance of a training camp with all three of them together, and JJ Redick's ability to just work through all these different questions, because it isn't always easy to get everybody rowing in the same direction and to, come up with the intricacies and the exact timing of everything you want to do.
I think, I think for I understand what you're saying when you say that, Austin and LeBron, it's like the least part, like the less important part of it. Like, all of it, though, like there's space for all of it, because while the three of them together is going to be a significant and important chunk of it, you start halves, you end halves, you end end games with the three of them on the floor together. There's also going to be a lot of time when it's two of the three are on the floor, or even one of the three. I mean, God willing, not very many, where none of the three are on the floor, but one of them really should be there all the time. So, I mean, I think all three combinations are important. After we can talk after the break about the Austin part of it, because I actually don't think that's really much of an obstacle, because I think most of the questions you're talking about, is he worth investing in? Is he I think they've already answered the question, but we'll get to that maybe in the next segment. In terms of the LeBron Luka thing, I do think it starts with the two of them and the vision that those guys have, and the opportunity that you have to put two guys with such unique skill sets together in actions like that. Two guys who read the floor better than 97% of the league, who have basketball IQs and can see things develop better than just about any player in the league. Certainly, I don't think any team in the league has two guys that have that. When they made the trade for Luka, we said, like, it's not a perfect apples to apples thing. But in terms of, if you had to pick somebody who could replicate LeBron's scoring and passing ability, the court vision, the ability to put the ball anywhere, like at that size, it's Luka. I'm like, they are very similar in that regard. And to have the ability to put them together, I do think that's the sort of the foundational spot. But Reaves as a third guy, I think you can get pretty creative, especially if you can figure out ways to make all three of them comfortable with the occasional catch and shoot, with maybe touching the ball a little less. And it's going to be more LeBron and AR, because we've said this about LeBron throughout his career. It's like, you got to find an awfully good player to get the ball out of LeBron's hands. Like these point guards that the Lakers have tried to get to come in and make it so he doesn't have to carry the load as much. Ultimately, you're taking the ball out of your best player's hands, and your best orchestrator's hands. They finally have somebody who could do that for LeBron, and you do it better at 26 than he can, certainly at 40, going on 41. I think the training camp thing is critical. I think if they haven't already started drawing all this stuff up, if they didn't enter the summer doing all these things, I get they didn't have a chance when Luka was traded. But
of course,
Andy, you got to believe, like I am, that they are, to use the Mike Brown parlance, binders deep in sets and things that they want to try.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's why I said that the training camp is going to be really essential for all of this. It's a big advantage that they will have heading into this season, that they didn't have, obviously, in Rob Pelinka parlance, building the plane in midair. And, that was the truth. They were trying to figure this thing out on the fly without a center even close to as good as Mark Williams, who they wanted to trade for, much less, Anthony Davis, who they did trade out for Luka. So I don't think any of this is insurmountable. I just think it's really interesting, just in the sense that you have these three different players, all of whom are very offensively talented and in certain respects duplicative offensively in a way that I don't think is bad. I actually think they play off each other very well. I think the redundancy on defense can be a problem with all three of them, and in particular with Austin and Luka at times. But offensively, there, I think, is a lot of untapped potential that they didn't have there. I just think it was interesting the way the article very understandably began this with Luka and LeBron as the foundation of it. And some of this really, I think, in a lot of ways is Luka either being willing to more often or being asked more often to screen for LeBron, because the discrepancy of LeBron screening for Luka was much higher than Luka screening for LeBron. I mean, LeBron did it like 6 or 7 times more per game, even though neither one of them did it a ton. It was certainly more LeBron screening for Luka than the other way around. I just think it's interesting in the sense that Luka and LeBron are the two best players, yet Luka and Austin are on different timelines than Luka and LeBron, with a potentially longer future together, that you're still going to be figuring out the maximizing of it, even if, like you said, and you may be correct, that they've already made up their mind about how much they'll pay Austin up to a point. But all of these things need to be figured out sort of individually as a foundation before you even start thinking about maximizing a 3-man version of it. Again,
well, sure,
it's nothing insurmountable as a problem. I just think it's a really interesting question.
It is. I don't. We'll talk more about this after the break, as well as the question of Rui, because there's one other wrinkle I think that makes it easier to make this whole screen and roll thing work effectively, and it actually has nothing to do with the three of those guys. We'll get to it next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP early, or eyeing a long shot division winner, or just ready to crown a Super Bowl champ before week 1 even begins, this is your moment. I'm taking a flyer on Lamar Jackson as MVP. Like, it feels right now, it's a traveling trophy back and forth between him and Josh Allen. CJ Stroud, though, I think could be an interesting dark horse. If you believe in the idea of a third-year bounce back, you can crown your champion in August. And I think this is the year Buffalo finally breaks through and wins the Super Bowl. If you're younger, you don't understand why that is such a mind-blowing concept. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day only. FanDuel, play your game.
So like I said, I don't think the Lakers really need to do anything that potentially compromises, we can't give LeBron and Luka as many pick and roll reps, because we need really to make sure that we're developing and seeing something with AR and LeBron and all that, or AR and Luka and all that kind of stuff. I don't think they are going to, and I don't think they need to make any concessions, Andy, in that regard, for two reasons. First of all, they're going to sign Austin. Assuming Austin either doesn't completely bleep the bed this year and give them, the red flags just start flying out from places that you would not expect them to fly. Assuming that doesn't happen, and I don't think it will, and assuming the number for Reaves doesn't get prohibitively high, like I think most people are talking in that $35 million plus 15% in either direction. I think that's what most people are kind of estimating for it. assuming nothing weird happens, they're going to re-sign Austin. And I also think they're not looking at LeBron or Luka and Austin as the future foundation. I think they're looking at Luka, Austin, and star to be named later. And so whatever chemistry that you're looking at there is going to be altered or upset or changed by whoever that third star is going to be. So I don't think they're going to need to, or really even try to think that hard about the extra reps, or we need to, do we need to hone in on this chemistry question between Reaves and Luka, because I just don't think it's going to affect their long-term plans.
I think it could to some degree, just because unless they are truly going to, I don't want to say sit in neutral, because the team they have right now isn't just idling, waiting for something big to happen in terms of competitiveness. It's a good team, but unless they are going to really hold off on doing anything of significance, unless it's Giannis, Jokic, or pick another star that Laker fans are photoshopping, you do have to try to maximize what you have. And
but that's my point, is you maximize what you have by maximizing what you have, not by trying to think of, do we have to give extra reps? Are there things that we need to see? If I'm understanding correctly, whether you understand that are future based, because we have decisions to make that are future based.
Remove the decision.
I don't think they need to compromise anything this year. I think they maximize it.
Fine. Remove the decision piece of this. You still have to try to maximize 3 different sets of pairings. That's what I'm saying. Regardless of whether you think there are decisions involved with it, you still have to try to figure out the way to do that. And that is something that has to be solved before you figure out the 3-man piece of it. If you don't buy into the idea of decisions for the future, fine, whatever. But there's still is
taking one thing off the table is all I'm saying.
Okay, fine.
Of all the things, you got to figure it out. But I mean, if you're JJ Redick and if you could present especially an offensive-minded NBA head coach with something you've got to figure out, here's your homework assignment, here's your challenge, figure out how to make Luka Dončić, LeBron James, and Austin Reaves effective. And it does matter, because obviously the more effective they are offensively is more wiggle room for them on the other end, and more wiggle room for the Lakers. But of all the dream assignments for a head coach who likes to design offense, this has got to be it.
Sure. Again, like I said, I don't see this as some insurmountable problem that is brewing for the Lakers. I do think it is a potentially complex question. And just that number got me thinking about how you go about attempting to build foundations for this, again, utopian version of the Lakers at their best offensively, which is this 3-man weave foundation between Luka, LeBron, and Austin that eventually starts implementing DeAndre Ayton and Rui Hachimura and all these other guys involved with it, which sounds amazing. And I'm not saying it can't be done. I just think they are further from it happening based on some of the numbers. And frankly, a lot of the offense that we saw last season when it was the 3 of them, they are further along from it than I think all of us thought would be more quick to happen, just because all of us were so excited at the possibilities of the 3 talented players put together. And just seeing that number, I think, was a reminder of the work that is still there to make happen, that goes beyond just whatever JJ is brewing up in the lab. Again, because it's one thing to draw this stuff up. It's another thing to implement it, get buy-in, get synergy, all that stuff. None of it is, I emphasize again, me trying to project doom. I just thought it was an interesting way of looking at where the Lakers are right now. And if nothing else, an illustration of the synergy that wasn't there.
Yeah, no, it's a cool number. It's a cool number. It's a revealing number, and there's a lot into it. You mentioned Ayton, though, and that was what I was alluding to when we went into the break of the first segment. the fact that they have a more versatile, I understand like everybody focuses on the vertical threat and all that. And look, Jackson Hayes can get above the rim and all that, but he is not a player that needs to be accounted for offensively for anything other than, hey, keep an eye on the guy when he's rolling to the basket because he'll get above the rim and they'll throw him a lot. You add Ayton in there as a much more versatile, maybe not as vertical, but a much more versatile offensive player to use in those screen and roll situations as either a screener and, the direct pairing screen and roll, whatever, a third guy who moves in off. Like there are so many different ways.
He has an ability to
screen and roll.
I was going to say he has an ability to have a jump shot threat that Jackson Hayes simply doesn't have.
But correct. And from mid range, all these other things. And like, you have to account for him. And the 2-man game and like what you design for LeBron and Luka and AR, the three of them together, whatever it is, it doesn't always necessarily have to involve screener, ball handler. It could be that, you're really designing action for LeBron to, come, from the wing, or AR to get a spot up, cut from somewhere to create an option to get Austin an easy 3-pointer in the corner, whatever it might be, using a different screener. And so there's so many combinations of things they can do. And so the offensive versatility of Ayton relative to Jackson Hayes, or even adding a player like Smart, who is not a classic point guard, but can move the ball, make the right pass, and put it in the right spot. That opens up options. A lot of interesting questions, Andy, being asked about Rui Hachimura and whether or not the Lakers see him as a future piece. And we will get to that next. I don't think this is a surprise to anyone, Andy, but Jovan Buha reporting that the Lakers have no intention to offer an extension to Rui before the off season. Given everything that's been said about flexibility and this and that and whatever, I would have been shocked, would remain surprised, and I'm not at all surprised to hear that doesn't appear that it's going to happen.
Yeah, this was from a recent episode of Buha's Block, Jovan's podcast that everybody should be listening to. Obviously, after listening to ours, quote, "With the current intel I have, I do not expect Rui to be extended by the Lakers in the next 6 weeks. It's certainly possible that something happens, but I would say that most of what's been out there is wanting to keep the books clean and wanting to see whether he starts or whether he's their sixth man and how the pieces fit together." And what I found really interesting about this is Rui is in a lot of ways, the perfect like test case or Rorschach test for what you think of the Lakers' plans seemingly for building around Luka moving forward. Because Rui has played well with Luka. Like, I think the two of them have played well together. I think the two of them in a lot of ways project to play well off each other. Rui has now turned himself into a very good outside shooter, the type that could feast off Luka feeds for the rest of his career. Honestly, the biggest problem with Rui's three-point shooting is that he doesn't take enough of them. Like, he needs to bump up the volume. I would say even double it. But he's also, though, he's not good enough that he would automatically merit an extension. But he is good enough to make you consider whether or not the Lakers should do it, if for no other reason than to have the tradable contracts. Even if you don't see Rui as a definitive piece for the Lakers' future moving forward, although it is worth noting that while Rui is certainly not LeBron in terms of overall ability and career achievements, yada, 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 he's not the worst replacement in the world for a lot of what LeBron brought to the team in terms of athleticism, in terms of size, in terms of starting power forward. He's not. I'm going to fight you on this. You could do worse. You could do worse than Rui as a starting power forward, which LeBron plays. You obviously need to replicate different things.
Right. But I mean, is in terms of replicating,
if you need a starting power forward after LeBron is gone, you could do worse than Rui.
That's a
playmaking and other things need to be brought by somebody else.
That's what I'm getting at. Like with the way you were framing it, it's like, as a couple people on the chat are framing it, like you are replicating very few of the skill sets that LeBron has, like very few with Rui.
Right.
Like,
but a lot of the skill sets are being replicated by Luka and theoretically Austin.
I understand that, but I'm saying, like, if you're going to need if you're going to need another power forward next year, I have no problem with bring Rui back. It's just, that is, the idea of Rui as a starting caliber power forward in the NBA, perfectly legitimate conversation. The idea of Rui as a LeBron replacement or a guy who can replace a lot of the things that LeBron does, I don't buy that. And I don't think that's what the Lakers would see it as. When LeBron goes, there is no guy obviously who can.
Yes, I mean LeBron.
It may be obvious to you, but I mean other people on the chat.
Well, no, I'll rephrase it. LeBron is one of. Okay, I will rephrase it. LeBron is clearly one of one. There is no replicating LeBron. I would like to think that most people watching or listening to this show would recognize that I am not confusing the overall skill sets of LeBron James and Rui, but I will phrase it more clearly now. He is clearly not LeBron, but if you are looking for somebody to take over starting power forward minutes that can fit very well with Luka and provide some of the things that this team needs in terms of physicality and athleticism, and he's within the sweet spot age-wise, you could do worse than Rui. Either way, I think he's an interesting test case in terms of who you would theoretically be willing to extend with Luka, or how much you are just thinking more about flexibility always being in the form of a player that does not exist because we value cap space.
I think they've answered again. I think for next year, this offseason, they've already answered the question. Like if they're not going to extend Rui, they're answering that question. They're saying we are valuing our flexibility for next year, especially with the idea that LeBron might be off the books. I think what you said at the beginning of it was the conversation was, I think, 100% correct. You could do worse than Rui. Rui's a starting caliber power forward, solid player, has a couple really good skill sets in terms of the athleticism out on the break, has turned into a really good 3-point shooter, as you mentioned, has weaknesses that we all know about. He is not a good rebounder for his size. He is not a great defender, although I think he has become a more attentive defender. He's trying more on that end, and he's improved. He
would be help if he was asked to guard fewer shooting guards and point guards.
I think that'll make a difference. No, slotting him in the right spot will make a difference. And I also think that he is not a great passer. You don't look to Rui for ball distribution. That has never been a strength of his. But is he a good player? Absolutely. But he's not so good that you feel like you can't replace him, or that you need to overpay to do it now, that you need to make some sort of future. We talked about in the last segment about the Lakers being sort of committed to Reaves coming back, whatever. And not necessarily, I don't think they're necessarily as concerned about seeing really hyper-focused on what it looks like to see Luka and AR together. I do think, though, when you start getting out further into the supporting cast, then I do think those chemistry questions, those need questions, wait, we're going to need a player who can do X, Y, and Z when LeBron is gone. Does that mean we want Rui or not want Rui? I think you can wait. I think you can absolutely wait. You can probably bring him back next year if you want to. You might not be able to. If he plays his tail off, it obviously could get more expensive to bring him back. But, I think he's probably going to slot again around the amount of money he's making now. I don't think he's going to get 25 million, 30 million or anything like that. So it's
but if let's just say as a theoretical, you could, and I want to make it clear, I have no idea whether this is possible or not. I'm just saying, as a theoretical, if you could extend Rui for 3 and 45 now, which is a little bit less than what he makes.
3 and 45? Sure.
Like 15 a year. Like, or say
3 and 45, absolutely.
Little bit less annually, but longer, whatever. Do you think the Lakers should do that? Yes or no? Because that's what I'm getting.
I think they probably. I think that contract they probably should. I don't think Rui will sign it.
Well, okay.
I don't think Rui will take 3 and 45.
Remove whether or not he would. Let's just say in this theoretical, he would do it.
Yeah, I think they should, because I think the Lakers should. If Rui would take 15 a year, I absolutely would sign him to that. Give him 3 and 45 and call it a day.
His current salary is like 18. Let's just say
18. So 3 and 60. Give him a slight raise, give him something. Yeah, I probably would.
Do you think the Lakers would?
No, I don't think they would.
That's what I find interesting about this. That's what I find
they have made it clear they are not going to sign players into the cap space that they have built up for next season. Like that, it is. I don't love the strategy. I've made that abundantly clear on 50 shows. But it's the Rorschach test or whatever it is has already been done. They are not doing it. When I say not pursuing players that are going to cost them, that flexibility.
I'm talking more Rorschach test for how we feel about it, or how fans, the people listening to the show, would feel about it. That's what I think is the Rorschach. It's not a Rorschach test for the Lakers. They're not taking the test. I'm talking about the people engaging with us, how they feel about it, evaluating a strategy.
Yeah, I think it becomes like, do you buy this as a way to go forward? And I think there are better ways. I think you have, assuming they're gun shy because they keep signing guys to contracts that nobody wants. And so I think the fear, if you extend somebody like Rui, is that this idea of you can trade a player is true if people want that player, and they keep signing guys people don't want. So they're gun shy, I think, in that regard. But if you sign the right guys, Rui Hachimura at $17 million a season or $18 million a season, playing like he did last year, is probably more valuable than the cap space, in my opinion. But I just work here, Andy. Just a guy with a podcast 5 days a week and a YouTube channel that is 36,000 subscribers strong that people can subscribe to. They can go to Apple and subscribe there to the audio, or the Spotify and all that kind of stuff. We did not get to Dalton Connect, who fell precipitously in the Athletic redraft. The summer of concern about Dalton on Locked On Lakers will continue tomorrow. Keep an eye. Let us know what you think about this Rui question, about the chemistry issue, about what you would do with some of these players that the Lakers could extend if they wanted to. And we will see everyone tomorrow.